Welcome to Wisdom from the Aerial View, the podcast for those who wish to crush their anxiety and find meaning and purpose in their lives. Good morning, Mark.
Good morning, Enid.
I want to say that today we've got a very, very, very special guest. It's a friend of both Mark and me. Someone we've known for way too many years, where it just shows how old we are. His name is Jeffrey Wolin, and we've known Jeff, I think, since elementary school. Long time ago. Yeah, at least 12 years. Let me tell you a little bit about this guy. First of all, I have to be honest and tell our listeners that it is amazing for me because I am now on a screen here with two people I've had a crush on since elementary school.
Now she tells us.
And I never nabbed them, but here I got them. Now I got them in a box and they can't get away. So hey guys, you're all mine. Let me tell you who this guy is. Jeff Wolin. He's a celebrated photographer, educator, and chronicler of human experience. He's a professor emeritus of photography at Indiana University, a career spanning several decades, with his work exhibited across the United States and Europe. His work is part of the permanent collections at the Metropolitan Museum of Art, the LA County Museum of Art, the San Francisco Museum of Art, etc., and Enid Museum of Art. He has received 2 visual artist fellowships from the National Endowment for the Arts and a Guggenheim Fellowship for his contributions to photography. His work explores memory, trauma, and identity. Holocaust survivors, Vietnam War veterans, residents of housing projects, and people experiencing homelessness. So he's not just an ordinary photographer. He's a photographer with a soul, with a man who has exhibited everything we talk about on this show about meaning and purpose. This is who this man is. But I want to read you one other thing from his book. I'm really interested, and he knows this. I love one of my favorites is Faces of Homelessness. And we're talking about homelessness a lot in this book. And I just want to read you one quick thing here. For them, there's no elsewhere, no home to return to, at least for now. No door to shut in the photographer's face. The camera is, as Susan Sontag once said, predatory, moving more swiftly than the painter's brush. It takes what it wants before one knows what it has done, gains by stealth and maybe without permission what the painter acquires through patience and persistence. You are a man, Jeff Wolin, on a mission. And that's why we wanted to have you on this podcast today, to talk about that, your mission, your purpose. We love you. I've said enough, Mark. What do you want to say?
Actually, I don't think you've said enough. I'm really enjoying this.
All right, now keep going.
I was a little disappointed after you got to the San Francisco Museum of Art. You went, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. I was hoping you would list all of them.
Well, one of them was in French, and I don't speak French, so I can't even pronounce it.
There's one in Austria. I mean, he's everywhere. This guy's everywhere. So, it's I have so many thoughts. First of all, Jeff, I'm so glad you're here. Jeff and I, we all know each other for many, many years. I remember Jeff lived about maybe 100 yards from me, maybe. I remember spending time at his home and him in my home and growing up. And, then those are the really early years. And of course, we all went to high school. And then something terrible happened that we sort of lost touch. I don't know about you, Enid, but Jeff and I lost touch for a long time, like a career's worth of time. Now, we're going to get to that in a minute about how insignificant that really is. And then at one of our reunions, high school reunions, Jeff walks up, who looks, by the way, exactly the same. If there are some people who, you look at and you go, and they tell you the name, you go, okay, what did you do with the real so-and-so? You're not that person, but not Jeff Wolin. He looks the same. You'd pick, if you hadn't seen him in 50 years, you wouldn't have any problem. You'd find him. He looks great. Everybody looks the same. So we started talking and we just, as these things happen, we just kind of rebonded, if that's the right term, reconnected, whatever. And then that's a number of years ago. We've been obviously talking to each other regularly and seeing each other regularly. And of course, since Ian and I live close to each other, we get to see each other. And now when Jeff's here, he comes to visit. And when I go to Chicago, we visit him. So, we've rekindled this really valuable relationship. And the funny part is that the relationship we rekindled was a childhood relationship. This is not a professional relationship. We missed each other's careers. It's really funny when you think about it. So it's great. I know Jeff feels the same way that you and I do, Enid. That it's so great that we're together again. And I think it's a good idea to talk about all the things that Jeff has brought through his art and through his craft to the world.
Absolutely.
So go ahead, quiz him.
Now, I guess let me ask you this, Jeff, because and everything Mark said obviously is true. What made you find your mission in your work? Because your work is astounding, but it's not just photos. It's photos with a mission. Tell us about that. Tell us about your mission, your purpose.
Well, I'm speaking now with two old friends who I love dearly, and I'm so happy we're reconnected after all these years. And both of you have definitely found your missions. Enid working with the seniors and ending senior
Yeah.
hunger, and Mark as a medical doctor, radiologist, and a healer. So we've all been fortunate. We came from our childhoods, and we were just kind of dorky, nerdy kids, and found our way. Who knows why? What drove us? I can speak for myself in that I it, it I wasn't handed an envelope and that's saying, okay, uh, go to college, then become a photographer and go out and teach a couple of generations of students. It wasn't like that at all. It was fumbling my way. But each experience that I had somehow was a step in the direction towards finding my way. And I was very lucky. So I went to college, and like most of the kids from our high school, I was going to become a doctor, like Mark did become. But along the way, and I was taking all the courses, and I love taking the hard courses, advanced calculus. I wasn't just taking the stuff that a lot of time pre-meds do to get high grades. I wanted to challenge myself and learn stuff. So along the way, and I drifted and became the year you have to declare a major. I declared it, and I switched early in the semester from biology to English literature. And I wanted to become a writer. All my friends all wanted to become writers. And Kenyon College, where I went, has the Kenyon Review. It's steeped in the tradition of writing and writers, and they were always bringing in people to read poems or short stories to us. And my mentor, the first person who really mattered to me, was my professor of contemporary American literature, and he turned me on to all the great stuff from the Beatniks, Kurt Vonnegut, I mean, I'd taken Chaucer and we had to read him in Middle English and whatever, but this changed me. This fellow, Karl Kopp, changed me. And he took an interest in me. He believed in me. And I was just starting photography on my own. They didn't teach photography in those days at Kenyon College. They do now, but they didn't. So I had to teach myself. And I got help from some mutual friends of ours, Ricky Rosenthal, who we know and love and who died way too early, taught me how to develop film. Friends at college taught me how to go in the darkroom and make prints. And I started to combine my passion for storytelling with my photography.
It's amazing. I mean, and you are a storyteller, and that's the beauty of your photography. It's not just the photograph. There are the words that accompany the photos, which is also very unique. How did you put first of all, I want to, the day you picked up a camera, was that sort of an aha moment for you? You picked up a camera and your life changed?
So I spent the summer, yes, absolutely. I spent the summer between my sophomore and junior years working at a dry cleaner in Cedarhurst, delivering clothes in a van. I would drive around the five towns and drop off clothing that had been dry cleaned. And I saved up all my money, and I went to a camera store in Green Acres, big shopping mall
Let me
nearby.
just interrupt for a second
Yes.
because not everybody knows what the heck you're talking about. So we grew up in this community on the South Shore of Long Island, just over the border of Queens. So we could literally ride our bikes into Queens if we wanted to. We're very close to Queens. So it's that side of Nassau County on Long Island. That's just past Queens. So just outside New York City. Our families, I'm going to speak for all of us, I'm sure it's true, decided to leave New York, either Queens or Brooklyn, whatever, and moved to Long Island because the schools were better for the kids. And I think that's probably the number one motivating factor. So we lived in this community. It was called the Five Towns because there were five towns. And that's what Jeff is referring to. Okay, I'm sorry to interrupt you.
Sorry, each time you do, it makes me think of another memory. Well, anyway, so there I did that. I saved up. I went to the camera store and bought a camera. And I got a really lousy one because it was all I could afford. It was called a Hanimex Practica. Fortunately for the world, it no longer made. And 35 millimeter. And I got black and white film because that was what was cool. And some friends of mine and I decided to drive from New York City to California. And we went up through Chicago, where I'm sitting right now, up through Wisconsin and Minnesota, and up into Canada, across Canada, down the West Coast. And we didn't have any money. We just had this car, and we slept outside in sleeping bags at night. We even stayed in what I now know is a homeless shelter in Portland, Oregon. And just had experiences along the way. One of my friends was from the Bronx, and he was actually a child of Holocaust survivors, from Auschwitz survivors, and he was making films, and he made a career out of becoming a filmmaker in Los Angeles. We're still in touch. And I was taking pictures along the way. At that point, I'd never heard of Robert Frank and the Americans, where Robert Frank, the Swiss guy, came and drove cross country and took photographs along the way and showed America in a new light. But there I was, driving cross country, taking pictures of our experiences, and then when I got back to school in the fall, well, Ricky taught me before I went back to school. Ricky taught me how to develop the film, and when I got back to school, I started to make the prints from that trip. And another thing that was really formative for me, and it was lucky, and this is because I was at a small school that was very, I don't know what, encouraging for all of us for whatever weird shit we wanted to do. There was a guy who somehow managed to buy a Chandler and Price printing press, an old school 2-ton maybe, or 1-ton printing press with movable type. And it was set up in the basement across the hall from the darkroom. And so I was in the darkroom a lot, but I started going into this print shop and learning how to set type and make and print pages. We taught ourselves. We didn't have any idea what we were doing, but we had a fabulous time printing stuff. And we'd get friends who were in the art department to illustrate stuff. And we made little books of poetry and broadsides and stuff. So I was combining words, on one side of the hall with pictures on the other. Somewhere along the way, after college, I decided to bring it all together. And when I went to graduate school at the Rochester Institute of Technology, I wanted to go there because they had a fabulous book arts program, and it was the biggest photography school in the universe. So I was able to combine, my thesis was a book of my writings with my pictures. And that just launched my career. I wanted to
Yeah.
it started with books, but then years later, because words in the art world were, it's not persona non grata, but unwelcome.
Yeah.
If you have to use words, then you're failing as a visual artist, like that. And I didn't tend to agree, but that was the world, and you had to do what the world dictated. But somewhere along the way, I was like, yeah, I really like pictures and words, but I didn't want to just do the words to illustrate the pictures to illustrate the words, like illuminated manuscripts, or vice versa, that the words would illustrate the pictures. I wanted to combine them somehow, that in a way that really hadn't been done before. I didn't think about it like that. I just thought, well, I can put the words, I can write my stories, and I can write them right on the pictures. But I had to make the pictures in such a way that the words would seamlessly go in there and look okay. So that began my career, and that really changed everything. The photography world, which was becoming a thing around then. Before that, photography was considered an unwelcome intruder into the art world. But that changed very, very quickly and blew up, and became one of the most exciting art forms of the 80s, 90s, and to this day is very much welcome in the art world. It's the integral part of the art world. So that was it. My career took off. I started getting the awards, the NEA and the Guggenheim, and got a teaching job at Indiana University, which was the second oldest MFA photo program in the country, and had a rich tradition of educating terrific photographers, and the faculty were all exhibiting artists. And so that's how I got started, and I haven't looked back since.
It's amazing, Jeff. I'm listening to this. And, you were in college. So we went to, obviously, all three of us went to different colleges. So that's really when we started to really lose track of each other. And what impresses me, I'm listening to your maturity. Now, we're all the same age within a year or so. And I'm listening to this thinking, so Jeff went out and decided to pick up a camera and see what happened. And at that age, the only thing I was interested in picking up was girls. So, and I wasn't and you were way better at the camera part than I was at the picking up the girls part. But I'm thinking it is so amazing because I just want to contrast. I'm a big fan of yours, not just friends, but I'm also an admirer. So we're close friends. We love each other, but I'm also an admirer because I have all your books. You sent me. Well, I don't think I ever bought one. You wouldn't let me, but I think I have your books, which I have literally right behind me. You can't. Well, you might be able to see them, but they're right behind me on my book the bookcase. Enid's showing on people. Our listeners can't see this because we've wisely decided to make this an audio only podcast. But we have all your books. But what impresses me the most is that you had this depth of thought. A depth of this intellectual curiosity. Not only that you decided to become a literature major and read Chaucer, God knows that would never cross my mind. But I was on a track of, okay, I decided I want to go to medical school. And once you get on that track, I mean, it's the good news is that unless you screw up, you're not going to fall off the train. And if you just keep going and keeping your nose down and working hard, you'll get to the end. Whereas what you were doing is a lot more high risk. Nobody guaranteed you anything. You literally invented your career. You invented who you were. You invented your career. You invented your life in a lot of ways. That's why I say it's a lot of maturity, a lot of depth of thought, and for me to compare in a sense what I did to what you've done. It's super impressive to me. It always has been because it was so risky. There was a lot of risk involved, and you didn't worry about it. You just said, I'm just going to do what I want to do and see where my intellectual curiosity takes me. And it turned out it worked out well, but you didn't know that was going to happen. You didn't know you're going to become a tenured professor in Indiana and have your work exhibited all over the world in permanent exhibits and win all these awards. You just decided, this sounds like a good idea. I'm interested in this. I'll teach myself. I'll educate myself. And that is, especially nowadays, I mean, I don't think a lot of young people listen to this podcast. They should. But that's a super impressive thing. And I'm sure you feel the same way that I do.
I do. And what I'm most impressed by is your subject matter. You don't it's nice that you take pictures of birds and trees, but that's not what you do. It's not who you are. Your subject matter is important. Your subject matter matters. And I would say this from the bottom of my heart, that you have made a difference in the world. Because not only have you talked about homelessness and the Holocaust, you've shown us, you've drawn the picture. You're a storyteller with word and picture. And that's, to me, what's most impressive. You have changed lives. You have changed the world. You've met people where they live, and you've told their story. I love that. That's why I love you.
So the one that the Pigeon Hill, is that the right name? Is that Pigeon? Okay. So this is a book people should look at. What's the title of it?
Pigeon Hill, Then and Now.
Pigeon Hill then and now. And these are photographs and stories about these people who lived. You tell the story, because that to me was very, very really struck me the first time I looked at it.
So Pigeon Hill is on the west side of Bloomington, and it's what we would call the other side of the tracks. There's a lot of poverty there. It's subsidized housing now. In the old days, it was just a bunch of shacks. And one of these became world famous photographers, Jerry Uelsman, when he was a graduate student at Indiana, went there and documented the lives of the people there. And so I wasn't the first person to go over there. But what happened was there was a really gruesome murder on Pigeon Hill. It was a graduate student in English literature at Indiana who sort of had lost her way. She was from a fairly wealthy family, but she was having some issues and was living in a shack up on the hill and was very vulnerable. And somebody murdered her and decapitated. It was a horrible, horrible thing. And it was in the news all the time, the latest details. Well, in terms of my career, I wound up as a police photographer in Kalamazoo, Michigan for 2 years. And I got the job because I had studied in Europe at the Academie voor Schone Kunsten in Antwerp, long story, and learned how to print color images, which, as I said, color was just beginning to take over or enter the art photographic world. So because I could develop the film, I was able to get a job as a police photographer because they were transitioning from doing the crime scenes from black and white to color. And the policemen didn't know how to print color. I did. So I got the job. And I spent 2 years seeing some really life-changing, gruesome, difficult things. So it's kept my interest in crime and punishment to this day, those experiences. So when this woman was murdered, I was curious. What were her last days like? What kind of life did she lead? Who knew her? What did they think of her? And I went up there. I started going up there, and of course, I was scared because this murder had been committed there. We knew from the newspaper that a lot of the drug trade was there, and homicides as they were in Bloomington. There's not a lot. It's not like Chicago, but it was, that's where the crime was. So I took a really, really, really large student of mine with me, and we'd go every week, and I would photograph, and we'd go back the next week, and I'd give prints to everybody that I'd photographed. And all of a sudden, I became known as the picture man. And so the kids would see me down the block, and they say, "Hey, picture man, come see, my sister just had a baby. Come take a picture." And I became this thing, this entity, this picture man who was documenting life up in the projects. And I did that for a number of years. And after a while, another long story, and not uninteresting, but not maybe suitable for right now, I stopped and went on to other things. Somewhere around 25 years later, it occurred to me I'd always been interested in what happened to the people that I photographed. And what happened to them? And so I went back. I decided to teach a photography class at the Boys and Girls Club up on the hill. And after every class, I'd go out with a box of old prints, and I'd show them to anybody I would see. And I'd say, "Do you know any of these people? What's happened to them if you do?" And finally, after a few weeks, this woman said, "Oh, that's my sister. I'll take you to her." And so that began. It's a ripple effect. Once you get one, they know somebody, and then they know two people. And before long, I was rephotographing after a whole generation, and that became the Pigeon Hill then and now.
So, I know this story, and every time I listen to this, I still think it's unbelievably cool, right? Unbelievably. But I want to comment on something about this. So, with that idea that the then and now, that you went to see them initially, and then 25 years later you go back. So that really dovetails so beautifully into what we talk about all the time on this podcast. And Jeff, you've heard me bore you with this also, but this whole idea about the jukebox of time and how all time exists contemporaneously. And the way I like to look at our lives is as our story, a novel. Each life is a novel. Each life is a story. We're the protagonist. We're on every page. People come in and out. So we started this conversation saying how we've known each other all these years, but there was a big gap. It's like so in a way I look at this, and when I hear your stories, this is literally what I see. I see the book laid out in front of me. I see Jeff and Enid and I on pages 10 to 35 or whatever. And then from page 35 to page 400, there's like a 300. It's just, we weren't part of it. Each of us was not part of each of our stories. So if we look at each of our novels, I wasn't in yours, Jeff. You weren't in mine. Enid wasn't in mine. And, we weren't in Enid's. So and so. But then the book continues, right? And all of a sudden you get to page 300 and who shows up again? Enid shows up in your book. And then 50 pages later, I show up in your book. And so this is what's so cool about how life works. Is this the message I think we try to deliver as often as we can, is that the way to look at the best way to look at life, to understand it, is to see the whole story all at once, because it exists all at once. And so you couldn't have predicted on page 5 when you were a little kid all these things that have happened to you in your career. No way in the world would anybody that we knew say, Jeff Wolin is going to turn out to be a very famous, internationally famous, recognized, award-winning photographer with works in some of the major museums of the world. And also, by the way, he's going to be a tenured professor for many years, and go on and on and on and on and on. Nobody in a million years. If I had said that to you when we were playing in your house, you would have looked at me and thought I was crazy, right? Indeed. But this is the beauty of it. It's all part of the same story. So I watch this and I look at the three of us now. I can see you guys. You can see me. Obviously, the listeners can't, but I see the whole story. I see the whole movie. I see the whole book, and I love it. I think it's so, for me, so inspiring. It makes me want to continue to do what I can do in my life. Just as all three of us, honestly, it's interesting. Out of all the people we went to school with who are our age, all three of us are still pretty active in whatever it is we have chosen to do in our lives, right? Yeah. It's kind of a cool thing, but because we all share the same idea that it's a limited time engagement. The gun goes off, go as fast as you can, do as much as you can, and then when the gun goes, then when the final whistle blows, okay, so be it, right? So I find this is such an inspiring conversation. I don't mean to take away from all the things you're talking about, but I wanted to just throw that in there because I think that's really the lesson we get from looking at our friendship, is that the looking at life as an entity, that time is an entity. It's a thing. It's not moving. It's not flowing. It just is. The whole book is there all the time. And when you appreciate that, it makes every moment of your life so much more meaningful. Every moment is important. Anyway, enough of that.
Well, I love your concept, of the aerial view, and throughout, you're also amazing. And of course, your podcast listeners know this. But you're not just a well-regarded. I remember I was just watching public TV 40 or 50 years ago, or some time ago, and all of a sudden you're being interviewed on public TV for something you were doing with radiology. And I was like, wait a second, that's Mark. and so both of you are doing amazing things, but the concept of, of the aerial view and looking at time differently than the way we have learned to do so, most people, is really beautiful and
it does bring meaning to every moment. That's the point. Every page counts. You can't pull out a page of the book and expect the story to continue the same. I just think it's so cool. It's funny. I look at you two. Now, you're not allowed to comment, right? There's no commenting here. I'm just going to say something. When I look at you two, I look at the careers you've had, the life you've had, and I will tell you that if I had I don't want to rank us, but I would rank me third. And that's why I said you can't comment, right? Because it's so impressive to me what you guys have done. And I'll tell you why. You didn't have a script. Enid didn't have a script. She didn't know what she was going to do. She didn't know. It's just like you. And the two of you have just dedicated yourself to improving the world in such a beautiful way without a script. I had a script. Medicine has a script. You just follow the yellow brick road, keep your nose to the grindstone, work hard, don't be stupid, and you'll get to the end of the road, right? You'll get there. You guys didn't have a yellow brick road. You were in the middle of this random universe, and you just figured it out and end up with these amazingly creative and important and valuable lives and careers. So that's why you're not allowed to comment. I just wanted to say that it was a lot easier for me than it was for the two of you in many ways. So
Well,
bravo.
let me tell you what I think. And thank you for that. That's lovely. Not true in my case, but lovely
No.
anyway. But I kept thinking this morning about the three of us. And the thing that I kept coming back to, and this is going to sound ridiculous, but we're all healers. In our own way, we've been trying to heal the things that needed healing. You, Mark, obviously heal us from disease. Jeff, heal us from sorrow and homelessness and deprivation, and me from hunger. We try to heal the things that needed healing. And I think you guys, particularly, not me, but have done that. And I'm proud to be friends with you. And I think what I've learned most of all from this is to hold our friends, because even if there are time lapses, we haven't spoken for 35 years, we're still friends, and we get back together, and the value of friendship may be one of the most valuable things that we can ever have. And we need to hold on to those friendships, which is why I'm trying to get Jeff to move here so we can all be together again.
Amen. And I think that's absolutely true. Jeff and I both, our eyes got widened when you said you guys, but not me, in terms of making a difference. Let me tell you something. Let me tell you the commonality we have. The commonality has, and I don't know where it comes from, someplace very deep, the kind of things that you and I talk about all the time, but we're all trying to fix the world. We have a sense that we have a responsibility to fix the world. And we know we can't do it. We know we're not going to completely fix the world, but each one of us in our own way has been and continues to try to fix the world. And that is what is missing in our society in many ways. That the me society, the selfie society, the victim society, that I'm owed this, I'm owed that. That's not only is that, never going to work. It will never bring joy, like you talk about joy, and never bring happiness and fulfillment. But you miss out when you're not trying to do that. You miss out on grabbing the great value of life. And so, I think that's what we've all done. Now, again, we all recognize our day will come, we'll be gone, and the world will still go on. And maybe we made it a tiny bit better, but we haven't really changed the overall course. But you still try, because that's why we're here.
You are. I know we're running out of time. It's too bad. We could do this show for several more hours, but I just wanted to read something in a way to end it, and then maybe Jeff can go on. And it was something, again, I get back to homelessness, because the impulse to treat homelessness as an embarrassing predicament that is best forgotten should be one to be able to overcome. It undercuts the dignity and resilience of the people who experience it. They are who they are, regardless of where they are, regardless of where they have, in the full sense of the phrase, found themselves. Mark Klein, Jeffrey Wolin, you have found yourselves. I thank you for that. Final word, Jeff.
You guys are the best. As you know, I'm one of your biggest fans for the podcast. It's terrific and inspirational, and I learn new things every time. Enid, your work with hunger and seniors, and not just hunger, but the way that older people, when they as they age and lose relationships and friends and spouses and stuff, the way you've helped to address their loneliness, which is at least as important as as their hunger. And I just think, what you're doing is amazing. I'm proud to know you, and I talk about you to my friends now. And with the two of you, it just is so clear. There is nothing like old friends. Yes, all of us have very, very good, very dear friends that we've made 5 years ago, last week, 20 years ago from college. But the friends that you made when you were growing up, that's a very special relationship. There's nothing like that.
I agree. And it's funny. I do. We all of us keep in touch with some other people from our younger years. And the thing is, we know each other when we were pure. There was nothing. It was just the way it was. That's who you were. And we know we know that core of that nugget of that person. We cannot be fooled. Right? We know who each other is because we've seen it from the earliest days. It's fantastic. Jeff, I can't thank you enough. We all feel exactly the same way. I would just say that rekindling, the three of us rekindling this friendship has been so meaningful, not only fun, but really meaningful. And again, it makes me, it energizes me when I see you two guys continuing to do the things you do and try and make the impact that you have and continue to make the impact. Then it makes me want to get up tomorrow morning and keep going also. So thank you so much. This has been great. We will end the podcast. We will certainly be talking to each other very soon, I'm sure.
Yes.
Anyway, so I'll just end it by saying thank you all for listening, and we'll see you next time.
Peace.
Thanks. Love you guys.
Love you too.